So when you find these undeniable nuggets, these dead ends, these eye-popping trails, and then you sort of forget about them over the years, that would describe the Knights of Malta. These very wealthy, they're beyond aristocrats. In fact, they don't rub elbows with anybody. They stay to their own. They've been, they've campaigned and fought for countries and gone back into their own sovereignty. But they have to be paid, and they were paid. They're linked up with the Vatican. There was about 8 years ago, I posted this up on Community Post. There was sort of this friendly, outright, sort of classical dismissal, where Pope Francis poignantly but very specifically asks for details in a specific matter. The Knights of Malta show up to the Vatican dressed in all their garb and finery, at least the people that they sent out into the public to be photographed, right? And to have this photo op opportunity here to then dismiss the publicly dismiss the Pope's request, the Vatican's request, meaning that they had to exercise their sovereignty, right? But they, like the Vatican, are considered, even though they don't even really have any land at all, they're considered to have their own, they're given their own passports, everything. And nobles, people have to be of noble blood, typically, and this caused a lot of issues in the past. They're really bizarre, but they're still very occulted. And when you try to look deeper into things, like, for instance, the whole thing that's happening with Prince Andrew, right? I'm not saying that he's a Knight of Malta, but I'm not saying he's not, right? He's the son of a noble. He's been sort of refuted and kicked out and dismissed. Perhaps in the Knights of Malta's eyes, he did no wrong. Like, perhaps it's a knight's sort of, like, they don't live by the laws. It's not necessarily from the outside. You'd say, oh, they're lawless, they're renegades. But when you look at our laws, and I'm not saying that protecting children and, look at what, I mean, what I'm alluding to is what's just happened in the media with this person who very much looks like they may have been assassinated on such a high level, with Jeffrey Epstein, a victim, seems to commit suicide. I'll pull a little something up on that. So Jeffrey Epstein's victim, Virginia Guffrey, who killed herself, it even says that in the news, like in the media, there's no speculation, who killed herself at her Australian home, once declared, in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. So at least they gave her that, right? And many people think that in this picture, there's no way she took a selfie, because she looks like she is obviously dead, like when she's taking this picture, like when this picture is being taken of her, rather. And the Knights of Malta lead on a very strange trail, where they were employed by, this is her right here, if you haven't seen it. It is a very suspicious trail. But this is her when she was a child, right? And it is a brotherhood, obviously. Their wealth doesn't have to be counted like most countries, or processed, or speculatively looked at. They are willing to fight, and sometimes wars take place on levels that we're seeing with, like, David Grush, Lou Elizondo, Jake Barber. Or what if all these trails, when you see the Freemasons wouldn't have been activated, spread around the globe to the extent that they are, if the Knights of Malta weren't involved with that, So when you come into these psionic abilities, and there's even a lot of suggestion that they began the CIA, and most likely were behind many other secret op programs. So when you really start to think about this, and the symbols that you see, the Knights of Malta, right? Hey Siri, what is the Knights of Malta? That didn't turn out too well. I'm trying to pull up a picture of, because it's on my other phone here that I'm recording with. So let's show an image of their, right? And it later sort of turned into this Iron Cross, right? But you see a very strange, like, depiction there, if you're looking at this in terms of traveling, or even time traveling. I'm not suggesting that. I think that is actually a possibility or a potential, that they're literally building bridges to the past, and they may be, like, whether or not they're good or bad, they may be trying to at least appear or stand sovereign to an incorruptibility, that they're remaining to be men, right? They're remaining to be the old school version of men. It seems like that's the statement that they were making. They were essentially began by sort of, through this process of rejection and refuting, they put out this call, and they started to come into this collective. And when this took place, they were so skilled, and they had access to so much money, they already had the power, right? That they just simply, with a lot of hubris, kind of like what you're seeing in terms of Donald Trump, right? You have somebody who acts like they're affiliated, who sort of wants, who may even know about a program like this, wants to be inducted, right? Knows that there's these alchemical processes that they've been infatuated with many years. So what if you had somebody who made contact long ago? What if you had people who, were in a room together, discovering certain things about the occult, using different chemical processes, like, ayahuasca or many other things, and found a long time ago serums with chemicals that are made illegal here, even possessing certain forms of gold or platinum or other materials that they hoarded, because they had the access, they had the power, they had the means. They were really, really rich. Like, they were being paid by something like 150 countries. Everyone recognized them at a time. And obviously the Vatican still recognizes them. And so you have Rome, right, recognizing them, the Knights of Malta, essentially, after really Rome fell, but it didn't, and the Knights of Malta, the Knights Templar, sort of Knights of Priory. So a lot of other names, but it leads directly into the Masonic Order. And You know, anybody who stands against them will shrink and be put on the back burner. You know, so just something to think about.